Okay, I'll start. Let's start at the beginning, which is the beginning of your career, which was very, very young. And from that point until now, you've just gathered and collected a lot of roles, more than anyone else who's ever started in the industry, like for such a small amount of time. And I wanted to ask you, what's the hardest part about joining the industry as a youngster? And is it hard to navigate the choices presented at you in order to make sure it's the right step? What goes into your mind when you decide to go for this script and that script? Because sometimes it's hard to say no to things that you're not doing anything. You want to say yes, but it's not the right move. How do you navigate that?
Yeah, I think I always, well, I started out when I was 14, and I knew in my heart that I wanted to act. It was the only thing I ever felt good at or loved. I was a very shy child. I was very insecure. And when I was 11, my school was doing a production of Oliver Twist, and they wouldn't let me audition. They didn't let any of the girls audition. They only auditioned the boys, and they gave the girls one line to say. And I said my one line in rehearsal, and I said it with as much passion as I could. And then they cast me as Oliver, and I was like, but since then, I've never let someone say no to me. I don't set myself boundaries. I think it's really important that every role I choose is first and foremost because there's good writing, because it's a good story, and if it's a good woman. I get asked a lot if I only play strong women as a choice, but I don't know any women who aren't strong. I've never met a woman who isn't complicated, who isn't interesting, who isn't vulnerable, who isn't tough. So I could never play a woman that isn't those things, because they just simply don't exist to me. It's not realistic. Every woman I've ever encountered has been all of those things and more. And I try to base my career around that, about playing characters that I really care about, I really believe in. But genre-wise, I still have fun. I still feel really lucky to be doing something that I love. So whether it's a horror movie or an action movie or a photo shoot or a campaign, all of those things are experiences for me, and I want to drink that in as much as possible. But I'm very conscious of keeping it varied and pushing myself and learning on every single job. I still love learning. I love that I gain something from every role that I play. But starting out at 14, I didn't know that I would be able to make this a career. I kind of just felt lucky that I had the opportunity to do something I loved. And as soon as I realized that this could be my job and that this could be something that I could do forever, I've been very active in making sure that it's varied, interesting, and that I work with creative people. There was such a wonderful thing about being in the creative industry, is that you get to have fun and create. I want to keep doing that for as long as I can.
You were cast as Oliver Twist, like a woman being cast as a man, and now you play Susie, which is a woman in a gangster role, which is usually portrayed by men. So it's kind of fun, like the whole twist that it gave. Do you feel that the industry is more open to casting roles for women that like are the lead and strong and are a typically male role in the traditional industry and not anymore? Or do you feel that it's still a struggle for a woman to be portrayed and cast as like the lead villain or something in the realm of that?
I think it is a lot better nowadays, but there's still a really long way to go. If I were to sit here and go, everything's great now that I've got to play this one character, that would be unrealistic. The truth is that there is still a really long way to go in order for us to see women in these positions of power and in these kind of different roles. Again, when I read the script, when I found out about Susie, and I knew her instantly. I loved her instantly. I love that she's a woman when we meet her. She isn't struggling. She isn't finding her way. She's already there. She's in control. She's the smartest person in the room. She has the biggest dick in the room. And I loved that about her. And there was nothing that frightened me about that. So I'd love to see more characters like that for the next generation, for my daughter, for my friends, like to look up and see those roles. And it's fun. I had a lot of people going, were you nervous about playing a female who is a villain? We can be both. And it's cool. I mean, if a guy can play Superman, I can play a villain. I think Susie's probably my favorite character I've ever played because of that. Because she is a woman, because she toes the line between right and wrong. But at the end of the day, whether she's a criminal or not, the truth for me is that she's good at her job. Now that job happens to be criminality, but she's just good at what she does.
do you get offered the roles? Do you have to compete with any other actresses? Are you on option? I don't know how that happens, especially because you're so established that I would think that you get and you just say yes. Yes.
No, I still audition. I like auditioning. I think it's important that not only the director auditions me, but I audition the director. I want to know who I'm going to be working with. I want to make sure creatively we have the same ideas and that it's going to be a good experience. There are some offers that come through, but I still think it's important that each party in filmmaking comes together, has a discussion, figures out if it's going to be the project they want it to be. Because art is collaborative, especially filmmaking. You have all these people from different departments that bring their skill to the table. You spend a crazy amount of time giving your all to this project, and then it becomes the world's. It's no longer yours. Yeah. I think that's really beautiful about what we do. Yeah. But that you have to have collaboration in order for that to work.
Yeah, it's all about teamwork everywhere, not only in other areas, but in the industry as well. Does it get harder to decide which roles you want to play now that you're more established, or quite the opposite? Do you feel that you feel more pressured to go for this role or that role?
I feel more assertive in what I want to do next, and I think that's something that's come with me being in this industry for so long, being in my 30s now, which I love, knowing what I want and being unafraid or unapologetic about being assertive and choosing the right roles. For many years after Skins, I was sent a lot of scripts that were the high school sexy girl, or the girlfriend of someone really important, or the wife of someone whose story they're telling. And I never found that interesting. I think there's nothing wrong with those parts, but for me personally, I like the challenge. I want something a little bit more interesting. I want to be James Bond. I want to be Superman, or I want to be the woman that kills them. I think that's far more interesting. I don't want to sleep with them.
It's funny that you've said about I love being in my 30s. It doesn't aging, because sometimes for women in the industry, aging is quite a faux pas. And you're saying, why do you love being in your 30s? Is it because of the secureness?
It's because it's the secureness. It's knowing that I'm good at my job, and I've been doing it for long enough now that I know that. When I started out, I was usually the youngest person on set, so I'd always feel quite insecure about that. And I'm unfortunately very British in that I'm quite polite and I'm quite quiet, and I won't speak up. But something's happened since I've entered my 30s, in that I know that I belong on that set. I know that I know what I'm talking about. I know that my opinions are valid, and I know that I enjoy working with people that respect me, and I won't allow myself to be disrespected anymore.
And that's something that comes with age.
Yeah.
I agree totally. And speaking about being secure, you were talking about being a very shy and insecure child, which I think it's funny, because when you started acting and like the first play you did, you immediately felt that it was something that it was very natural to you, that you felt comfortable with, which is kind of incoherent, like very shy, getting up on a stage in front of people, and this is like supernatural for you in this case. Why do you think you felt so drawn to it? Do you think that since you're becoming a different character, a different person, you kind of like lose the insecure child in yourself? How do you think that works?
you let go of your own insecurities because you're being someone else. And my style of acting is, I'm not formally trained. I don't like using tricks or things like that. I like to embody the character. I if I need to cry in the scene, I don't think about something sad in my life. I think about being that character, experiencing that emotion, and that's what makes me sad. I like to let it be instinctual. I like to embody whatever the psychology of that person is in that moment. And I think that that's kind of what gives me strength in it, in that I'm not me. I'm thinking of other people. I'm hiding from my own crazy and finding a new crazy to be in.
Like an alter ego.
Yeah.
Setting aside the obvious criminal liaisons, what do you and Susie Glass have in common? Is there a bit of Kaya in Susie and a bit of Susie and Kaya?
Yeah, I mean, her fashion was probably my favorite wardrobe I've ever worn as a character, and that's something that I'm really passionate about as well. And I've had a lot of people say, oh, but if you're playing a strong female role, then she shouldn't be dressed too sexy, or she shouldn't be too fashiony. She should be kind of simple. And I don't understand that at all. You can be both. You can be a feminist and still love a Louboutin heel. There's nothing, they can coexist, and they certainly do for me. And Susie's the embodiment of that. She's perfectly manicured at all times. And she's dealing with all these men around her. She's dealing with death and drugs and destruction, and she still has time to go get her nails done. I think that's the most boss move ever.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I do agree that sometimes stereotypes need to be crushed. I mean, if you're talking about the environment and you're an activist for the environment, you don't need to be dressed in hemp, you know, something like that. Do you feel, talking about having Susie and Kaya and Susie, do you feel that every character teaches you something and that a little bit of the character stays with you? And if you have any example to share, I'd love to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's this, one of my favorite parts of getting a new job is the beginning, when you kind of do the research into the person. And that can be anything from getting into the mindset of someone who would marry a serial killer and, you know, going down this YouTube rabbit hole of women and why they fall in love with men in prison, and that's because they know exactly where they are at all times and they need them, and that's why it's such a seductive relationship for them, to learning how to ice skate. I learn something from every character that I embody, and I always keep a part of them with me. The voice is usually the first thing that I find in a character. In my mind, as soon as I'm reading the script, I can hear her voice, and then I take that on throughout the project, and then that's the thing that's kind of hardest to let go of at the end. Even now, when I'm talking about Susie, I suddenly turn a little bit more like that, and I have to go, oh no, that's not how I actually speak.
What changes? Is it the tone or like the rhythm of the way they speak? That's super interesting.
Either and or both. With Guy Ritchie particularly, rhythm is really important with his dialogue. There's no punctuation. So Susie would have these kind of monologues with no full stops. And you have to find a rhythm so that you can actually catch your breath and you can actually get through it. But then you kind of hear the Guy Ritchie tone that we're all quite familiar with within that. But it can be pitch. It can be, so for Susie particularly, she has a low voice because she's around men, and she's learnt to assert herself by lowering her voice in those environments. But she's also got a slight Cockney accent, so it's high-pitched in certain places. I really like dialect. I speak Portuguese, and so my mouth is used to moving in different ways. And I find it really fascinating how, especially in England, because of our class system, you can tell who someone is the second they open their mouth. You can tell how much money they have, what their family, where they're from. And it fascinates me. Yeah, it's a character within itself. And I find that really interesting.
It's funny that you talked about Portuguese. We'll go back to that later on. But some of my friends think, oh my God, you speak like English so well. And I think that Portuguese people have a natural way to speaking languages because the language has so many tones and sayings, and so you do the sh and the ch, and there's a lot. Do you think that speaking Portuguese helps you in the dialects and the tone, your characters?
Definitely. Tone and language and dialect is all about where you place your tongue and your mouth. And so having a second language, or any second language, helps you with that immediately because your tongue is used to being in different places than your mouth. I'm not perfect at it. I'm not one of those people that can just do any accent like that. I've got some friends that are, and I think that's amazing. But I can study it, and that there is a rhythm to it. There's a way of learning it. But Portuguese has definitely helped me. Also, it being based in Latin means that you can kind of figure out lots of other languages as well. For sure. Whenever I'm in Spain, I can sort of pick 3 words out of a sentence and figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Which was your hardest part to play? And is there any role you'd rather not have done?
Oh, God, I've done some bad stuff. Of course I have. I mean, there's also times you just got to pay the bills.
No, for sure.
And,
for sure.
Oh, God, I've done some weird stuff. No, I don't know. I think everyone has, and I think that's okay, and I think we should normalize the fact that actors are self-employed workers, and there are months or years where you can't choose what your career trajectory is going to be. You need to pay the bills that month, or get the experience, or work with certain people in the hopes that later on down the line they'll have a budget for it to actually be good. But I've done some weird low budget, strange. I did a lot of music videos, which I actually found really fun. I find music videos an interesting storytelling way, but some of them I look back, I'm like, oh my God, What was I wearing? It was also like early 2000s, not a great time for fashion.
But you're here and you're not hungry, and that's important. You
Yes,
paid your bills.
yeah, we're working.
What was your hardest part to play? Was it spinning out because of you had to learn to ice skate?
Spinning out was probably the most physical because of the ice skating. But I would say, personally, probably Skins, because I was so vulnerable. I was 14 when I started doing that, and I didn't really know who I was as a person yet. And a lot of the subject matters that we dealt with were really heavy, especially for that time. We dealt with mental health, we dealt with eating disorders, with sex, with all these things that as a teenager you're experiencing for the first time, and then going on camera and experiencing for the first time. And I look back on that time and wish I was probably taken care of a little bit more, or that I'd had people around me looking after me. But I think nowadays in the industry that's changed, and I think, again, it needs to continue to change, but there's a lot more safeguarding in place for young actors on set, and I'm really grateful for those actors now. I think we could have been taken care of a little bit better.
Well, I think that probably with all of that, it would be better that it didn't happen that way, but for sure maybe the show was so popular because it was so raw and so true.
Definitely, and I think what was beautiful about Skins was that it wasn't a moral story. We didn't show someone taking drugs and it going wrong and this is bad, don't do it. We respected our audiences. We gave them the opportunity to decide for themselves, and I think that's what young people really resonated with. We were storytelling, not kind of a moral storytelling. And I think that's why it still resonates to this day, which is odd because I get 16-year-olds saying that they're watching it. I'm like, there's no iPhones, there's no Instagram, but they can still see past all of that, and that's quite cool.
Yeah, it's because everything is still true.
Yeah, teenage life is still shit.
In The Gentleman, your character is one with lots of influence, of course. Which are your biggest industry influences?
My biggest industry influences, I have to have met the person and know them to respect them and to look up to them. I think it's quite easy to say, I really love this actor, but unless I know that they're a good human as well and that they're kind to people, that's important to me. I've been really lucky that Nicholas Hoult, who played my brother on Skins, he's such a prime example of you can be successful and still a good, kind person and treat people around you well and lead a movie set in a kind way. So I really respect him. I admire any woman who's still in the industry and still hustling. I admire a lot of people, but to me, honestly, my biggest inspirations are my friends. My best friend is just qualified as a midwife, and that to me far exceeds anything I'll ever do. I'll go home and complain about 12 hours on set, and she's seen life come into the world. My inspirations are the people closest to me that I love and respect.
We've already spoken about the array of different characters you've played and the type of characters you like to play. And I was curious if there's a specific kind of role you're still yearning to play, like something that would be your ultimate character.
Yeah, definitely. I've done a lot of I've been lucky enough to do a lot of action movies and a lot of big budget studio films, but I really miss shooting just indie movies in a muddy field in England or Europe, Portugal maybe. But yeah, just something really simple with a really exciting director. I'd love to work with more female directors. I'd like to work with more first-time directors. My dream is to kind of move into production and bring together women of colour and anyone marginalised and flourish their creativity and mentor them in a way that I never had. And in a way that I think a lot of women in the industry don't have. We don't have those women that are in high positions that can have time and resources to really mentor us in the same way that men do. So I'd really like to start something like that.
Do you see yourself being that woman director, first-time woman director?
Maybe not a director. I really respect directors. I think it's important to understand angles and frames, and I'm not mathematically minded at all. But I'd love to produce. I'd love to, again, I've been doing this for 17 years now. So I know how to run a set, and I know how it can be done. I know how it can be done respectfully and kindly, but also productively. And I'd really love to be part of the creative process from the very beginning to the very end. As an actor, you kind of step in, you do your bit, and then the project becomes the editors or the streamers or whoever's in charge of it. I would really be fascinated to see the process from the very beginning to the end.
Talk to us. Let's do a partnership.
Okay,
We'll help you.
I live here now. I'm living in this office. This is home.
We're doing it. Streaming platforms has changed a lot of the film industry. what do you think is the best of what it brought, and what do you feel is the worst?
Yeah, it's interesting. When we started Skins, there was no streaming at all. And I really loved that you had to wait every week to watch the episode. I remember we would take turns in the cast going to each other's houses to watch that person's episode. So whenever it was Luke Pasqualino's episode, we'd all go to his family home with his mum and dad, and they'd cook for us and we'd watch his. And we took turns doing that. And there was something really lovely about that, about making television an event, needing to schedule it in, knowing that that's what you were going to do with your time. But then on the other hand, what streaming has done, which is great, is mean that you can enjoy something fully when you want to and when's convenient for you. I mean, I remember missing an episode of something one week and crying because I never get it back. It's gone now. I'm never going to watch it again. And what I've learned a lot from people is that, especially with The Gentleman, they've watched it 2 or 3 times fully through. That's really cool as well, that you can, if something really truly is bingeable for you and you enjoy it, that you can revisit it and look at it from a different way and focus on a different character. That's quite cool.
I've seen this spinning out 2 or 3 times.
I
was sad that it got cancelled after the first, because I really loved the
It was a lot of fun. It
series.
was expensive. It was very expensive to make.
That's true.
Because I'm not an Olympic ice skater.
Let's talk about your Portuguese connection, or rather the Brazilian one. Your mother is from São Paulo. That's
Sim.
it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I know you. I don't know if you've ever lived there, but you've probably visited. How did you learn it? You spoke with your mother at home. Is that it?
Sim, eu aprendi português falando com minha mãe em casa, desde pequenininha, e daí eu falava inglês na escola. Então eu só falava com minha mãe em português em casa, até hoje eu só falo em português com ela. Mas eu acabei de trabalhar no Brasil pela primeira vez, fiz 5 semanas lá, no Cena, Story of Art and Cena, for Netflix. And we shot in Brazil for 5 weeks, and it was a dream come true. I've been looking for a Brazilian or Portuguese project for 10 years now. But I wanted it to be good. I didn't want to just go do anything. I didn't want to do a stereotypical story of what Americans or Brits think life in Brazil is like. I wanted to find a story that meant something to the people. And I think Art and Cena means more to people than most in Brazil. He's an icon and a hero, and an incredible story to be a part of.
Can I ask you to tell us a bit more about Sena, because there's not a lot of information still about that, and I wanted to know which is your character, and whatever you can share about the project would be great.
I'm quite a small part in it. I mean, obviously the focus of the story is Gabriel Leon's character, Ayrton Senna, and his family and his life, and I play a journalist who follows his career through Formula One. Which was quite cool because there weren't a lot of female journalists, and there still aren't a lot of female journalists, especially in Formula One. And so she's the only fictionalized character, really. But the idea is that she's there from the very beginning with him. He feels quite safe with her because she's part Brazilian. She can speak to him in Portuguese when he's missing home, when he's missing his culture. She reminds him of that. And she sort of tracks his career throughout the entire journey. And I think that's all I can say about it.
Yeah, and that's a perfect part for you, from what I've hearing you speak Portuguese, and then it's perfect casting. Are you a Formula One fan? Because now it's so trendy.
It's such a cool thing, isn't it? I wasn't before, not at all. And then for research, because I'm playing a journalist, I thought, okay, I need to know what's going on here. And I felt fascinated by it, especially the early Formula One, Ayrton Senna's era. Even go-karting, all of that world, and learning about how much of athletes that these people really, truly are, what their bodies go through in the car is insane. And then there's all these politics around the sponsors and the people that run it, and it's really quite intense. So yes, now I am a Formula One fan. But I don't have a driving license. I can't even drive a car. So yeah.
And didn't even Senna make you like, I want to drive?
Yeah, I want to drive. I don't have time. I was speaking to Cole about this because I've worked since I was 14. There's lots of things that I never got to do, normal kind of growing up things. No, I never had time to take driving lessons. I tried, and my driving instructor ghosted me because I had to keep cancelling so much.
What are the other things that you missed because you were acting and filming?
I was lucky enough that I have 2 best friends that were from before that time, but I didn't ever get to kind of build those friendships outside of being famous or being on a TV show. I didn't ever get to drive. I I mean, some good stuff I missed out on. I didn't have to deal with college and all of that stuff. I don't know.
You gain some, you lose some.
Yeah, I think Skins for us was like university. We all describe it that way, because we were, staying in a different city, all in a hotel, and being paid not a lot of money, but money, which was like wow, and falling in love with each other and falling out with each other and dealing with all those things that you normally deal with at that age, but on this kind of TV set. So we had the university experience, but in a different way.
Yeah. I thought that was very interesting, so it made me pause. Speaking still about your Portuguese connection, what's your favorite Portuguese expression? I love this pause. Ching, ching. Drinking wine. Ching, ching.
My favorite Portuguese expression is saudades. Eu sinto muito saudades do Brasil. Saudades da minha conexão lá, a energia das pessoas, da comida, do jeito das pessoas, do amor das pessoas. No meu coração eu me sinto mais brasileira do que britânica.
2 questions because of that. One, what's your favorite Brazilian food?
I only cook Brazilian food.
You do?
And I'm a really good cook.
Ooh,
eu faço moqueca, feijoada, todo domingo. Faço feijoada para a família inteira. Coxinha, faço de mão, pastel, tudinho.
Ah, nossa. Next time, cook off.
Brigadeiro, a gente traz tudinho.
Well, I don't know. I think this kind of, the question I have now is kind of been answered, but I will ask anyway. What is something you do or say or a trait you have that's really Brazilian of you? And what's a trait or something you do or say that's so British of you?
Oh my God. I struggle between the two. I actually realized there was a day on set on Senna where they showed us some footage of what we'd filmed for the crew, because it was a really long shoot and they wanted to kind of show the crew what we'd done. And I was sat in this tent with all these Brazilians in Brazil, seeing myself speaking in Portuguese, and I felt really overwhelmingly embarrassed because I'm British. And I was like, oh no, I can't, I don't watch my own work. I felt really shy and really anxious, but I felt really emotional about the moment, but I tried to hold it in because I'm British. Okay. And then I turned round to Gabriel and he said, Kaya, parabéns, olha o que você tá fazendo, me deu tanto amor. Eu comecei a chorar. E esse é o lado brasileiro, né? De emoção, de paixão. But my British side was fighting that. It was so badly wanted to be like, and my Brazilian was like, ah! So yeah, the emotional imbalance, which I'm sure my ex-boyfriends would agree with.
Last question. This is your first time in Portugal. And my first question is, why? Why so long to visit Portugal?
No, I've always wanted to come. I was planning a trip here this summer. And then this came through and I've never been so excited to go to a photo shoot because I knew it was going to be here. Oh, okay. And I can't wait to explore. I have a friend who lives here. He's going to take me out tonight. Oh, I'm going to go to every bar I can go to. I'm very happy to be here and I will be back.
Yeah,
can
perfect.
You just ask about the shooting today?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. Let us know. Yeah, let us know how it was, the place you shot, what was the best
Como
part.
que chama?
Palácio de Queluz.
Palácio de Queluz.
Exato. Queluz.
We shot at Palácio de Queluz. It was wonderful. It was really lovely because I've never met Cole before, but he was such a warm energy to be around. And as an actor, he also understands how to direct an actor in a photo shoot, which sometimes some photographers don't. We're not models. All respect to models because it is a really hard job to do. And having someone that understands how to direct an actor was really helpful. But it was incredible to just kind of be around people that were excited to do something creative. It's a gorgeous location. I'd shot in the Palace of Versailles a long time ago and it reminded me of that kind of grandeur and beauty. It was a shame about the weather, but that's okay. I'm used to it. I still found it beautiful.
Yeah, that's just a thing that we've done. So
I feel at home.
Yeah, no, and also to come back.
So I come back, yeah, exactly.
Both. It's like the conflict of British and Brazilian.
There we go.
So,
in one day.
For you to feel welcome. Thank you so much, Kaya. I think this was
Thank
lovely.
You.
Thank you. Thank you so much.